Hello everyone, Nigat here, and welcome to another match of LittleWarGame. Today I am bringing you a replay that was posted on the LittleWarGame Discord between Sqrtofneg1, playing with the blue pieces in the bottom right hand corner of Ravaged, versus his opponent SlammerIV, playing with the red pieces in the top left hand corner of Ravaged. Very excited to see how this game goes, especially as SlammerIV is an extremely well-known player in the LittleWarGame community. He's worked extremely hard and for a long time. Likewise with Sqrtofneg1, both players being extremely skilled and very knowledgeable in their game knowledge here. So let's go ahead and take a look at their opening. It looks like, and I kind of want to see the production tab here. Looks like we have a little bit of a 2-den coming in versus SlammerIV's also 2-den. So they're 2-denning each other. I believe Slammer cut a worker to get one of these dens down a little bit faster. So we'll definitely have a very high-paced game here very shortly, as both of these players are getting up to their 10 worker count and going for these 2 dens. While these first initial wolves are building, just wanted to address the time since I put out my last video. It's been a while. I think it's been almost a month now since I uploaded last on the channel. Recently started working, and as a result, I went from having close to 20 hours a day to just game and veg out at home and just play games and cast replays, whatever I wanted to do essentially, to like 3 hours a week to be able to sit down at a computer and kind of just do whatever I wanted to do. So fortunately, on this beautiful Saturday, September the 16th, it's close to the end of the day here, and now I get to cast some games of LittleWarGame here and see how these players are developing in terms of their skill and how they're going to develop in terms of their opening. Sqrtofneg going for basically a scouting wolf idea where he's sending one wolf around to make sure he can scout for information. Slammer doing a little bit of the same, sending this red wolf in to get some information. Does see the 2-den. We also notice that Slammer and Sqrtofneg put their dens here, so one at the bottom of the ramp and one here at the top. These den locations block any workshops from being built, completely blocking the ramp. So this is just a little bit of insurance to make sure that ramps don't get blocked. Ooh, Slammer going for a little bit of a wolf surround. This is where a lot of the fun of playing wolf comes in, is you try to get the best rounds. Slammer doing a really good job of controlling these wolves, is getting the surround on that one wolf. At the same time, Sqrtofneg is targeting down this really low HP wolf. We do see that both players lose a wolf right there. Extremely low wolves over here. If Sqrtofneg can target fire some of these wolves down, this might end up going a little bit better, but SlammerIV losing about 3 wolves right there. Go ahead and take a look at the units lost. If I press the letter U, we'll see that SlammerIV has lost about 3 wolves, whereas Sqrtofneg has only lost a single wolf so far. So definitely advantage for Sqrtofneg here. Slammer does end up losing another wolf. Sqrtofneg microing these low HP wolves back, but if Slammer had really good worker surround. Actually, Sqrtofneg could have pulled this guy back. Oh, these workers came in clutch and were able to surround 2 wolves right there, essentially tying up the wolf lost count. But yeah, if SlammerIV was able to kind of just finish that trade 4 wolves ahead, or I think it would have been about 3 wolves ahead, he would have been able to translate that lead into a little bit of additional pressure. We do see, looking at the production tab, that Sqrtofneg is going for a fortress follow-up, so he's teching into dragons, whereas Slammer still needs to finish up his castle. Sqrtofneg hasn't transferred workers just yet, does now when there's a little bit of time. outside of microing. So the interesting thing about this fortress follow-up that Sqrtofneg1 decided to go for is that for a time he stopped building wolves, which has been allowing Slammer to build up his wolf count again. Ooh, good target. Targeting micro from Sqrtofneg1 here, targeting down these really low wolves, chasing them down, making sure that they can get killed. Good splits as well, making sure that these last 2 wolves don't get surrounded. Slammer, he's going to have to run away with this wolf here. So there was a time there when Sqrtofneg1 rather, had to stop building wolves so that he could start affording his fortress as well as this castle to follow up with. And as a result, we did see that Slammer was able to get a good engagement, but Sqrtofneg1 with some fantastic micro was able to kind of negotiate that situation. Slammer not rallying his workers, and it makes sense why that might be the case, especially with these kinds of openings, the 2 dens versus the 2 dens, how fast-paced they can be, how very stressful they can be on your hands and on your mind. So you might have to like control the wolves while maintaining perfect macro, and that can be really hard to do. Slammer going for the engagement here. Sqrtofneg1, I definitely feel like has the better surround, but Slammer decided to pull the workers. Slammer's workers are just like supermen right now with their ability to help out in these fights. If they're able to get these wolf kills, that would be really good. Probably at least 2 here. And then at the same, so losing about 3 wolves here, a 4th wolf over there. So Sqrtofneg1 losing a couple of wolves now. In fact, he's lost more units at this point than Sqrtofneg1 has lost more units than Slammer4 at the moment, and at the same time Sqrtofneg1 has 3 really low HP wolves. Slammer gets another really nice surround here. However, so does Sqrtofneg1, and they're just targeting down those low HP wolves. Still, let's take a look at the tech. So Sqrtofneg1 following up on that fortress is getting those dragon layers up. Let's see. Ooh, Slammer's follow-up was a den into a werewolf den. So he's trying to win the ground war, where Sqrtofneg1 is going to be going into dragons and is going to be avoiding the ground war altogether while still building wolves. So very good, very good unit, able to do a lot of pressure in the early game, able to do so much. Slammer4 with 3 wolves over here, while at the same time going for a little bit of a surround. Ooh, decided to take the long way around. I guess he noticed that he could have been flanked here and he didn't want to lose these wolves right away. So definitely a lot of movement on the board, or on the map, if we want to call it a board or a map, either one. But yes, so Sqrtofneg1 securing his 3rd base location while at the same time being active on the map, getting another wolf surround. Slammer responding by pulling his wolves back. Hopefully he'll send those guys home. Can't really see if he has these guys on rally move, like if he shift clicked where they would move next. It would be a bummer to see these 2 wolves die because they weren't rallied correctly. Slammer getting a good surround here. Sqrtofneg1 losing another 2 wolves. Should be guaranteed. However, guaranteed 2 wolf kills. We see another surround here with this wolf. Wolf can't escape. It's completely surrounded. Slammer is microing his low HP wolves back. At the same time, Sqrtofneg1 moving forward. Yeah, it's interesting to see. I kind of want to take a look at the wolf count at the moment. So Slammer only with 9 wolves, whereas only with 9 wolves, and a werewolf just popped out, so that'll be good for him. Whereas Sqrtofneg1 has the 14 wolves plus the 2 dragons at home. It's a little bit supply blocked, but it does look like he's trying to go for a mass dragon attack. He doesn't want to rally these to the other side of the map and reveal what he's doing to his opponent. Is Sqrtofneg1 building a house? I don't think he is. He does not realize that he's supply blocked. It looks like he might just be trading supply right now to get these dragons out just a little bit faster. Slammer having to respond with pulling the boys, and then at the same time Square Root moving forward. Yeah, getting good trades. So, like, just it feels like this whole game, Square Root has been getting some really nice trades, and then Slammer has been having to pull workers to try to get some wolf kills himself. But just really good control from Slammer so far, or from us, from Square Root. Slammer obviously is doing a really good job to be able to control all this. Decided to get an airship alongside the dragons. We do see that worker was targeted down. The dragons are here. Definitely need to target down this airship so that he can deal with not having, well, that airship won't be doing drops in the future is essentially what's going on. Workers block this werewolf from being able to attack the tower, and as a result, Slammer ends up losing that werewolf for free, but he does receive the scouting info of knowing that there are dragons on the field at this point. If we take a look at the income tabs, we'll notice that Slammer has lost about 300 gold more than his opponent. However, Slammer has mined almost 1,000 more gold than his opponent. I wonder how that was. It's because these bases weren't fully saturated, so Square Root wasn't producing workers that entire time. And the fortunate thing about Slammer's setup with the Wolverine drop is that he had built this advanced workshop, and that allowed him to follow up with Ballista. And now these Ballista are going to start doing some damage to these dragons. Dragons are basically trying to ignore the Ballista for as long as they possibly can. It's very hard to do that, and trying to get some damage, obviously. Tower is doing a really good job of defending. Now there are 2 Ballista. Dragons have basically done their job, in a sense, forcing Slammer to go defensive. And then now looks like Square Root is going to be going for some value, getting rid of these towers, being able to saturate his... Ooh, he really needs to keep building workers. Like, that's the one thing I'm noticing out of all of this. He needs to be producing workers constantly. And now we do see that Slammer is going for this double werewolf drop. This is a very expensive drop. If he ends up losing it, that is a lot, if not almost all his map pressure gone. So Square Root is having to pull the workers away one more time. Ooh, almost loses a werewolf for free through that tower. Workers are being pulled away to try to avoid these werewolves. Nothing's going on over here, just more production. Dragons are officially on this side of the map to deal with the werewolf. And remember, this is very expensive. Werewolves cost about 200 gold a piece. So losing all these is very expensive. However, Slammer with about 7 more workers than his opponent, meaning that he is mining so much more gold than Square Root here. But with this drop being eliminated, Square Root should be able to slow down the game and control the pace, especially with these dragons. He should be able to have just all the map control he needs to slow down the game, make sure to deny this third while building nonstop workers. Oh, he's not building workers. Build workers at your second. And then with the game slowing down, I think, and of course the map control, to me, I feel like Square Root could win this one, especially if he goes for like harassment like this, especially if he doesn't lose any dragons. Like, he's just going to get free damage, which is really nice. So that's just free damage. These dragons will regain their HP. Just got to watch out for these ballista. And now you'll notice Square Root has seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ballista on the field. He can tech into anything he really wants. So in this case, he's teching up into workshops. He can go for mech army. And now any ground army that Slammer builds is going to be at least, what is this? How much supply is in a ballista? I think 4, so 4 times 5. So 20 supply. Yeah, 20 supply better than his opponent. And Slammer is still building ballista. Like, how many ballista does he have? Does he have 6 ballista right now? Yeah, so it'll be 24 supply better than what his opponent has. And this is, I mean, this is a considerable amount of supply in dragons. You can eventually trade these out, or try to use them. Like, ballista are only good if they fight against air units, whereas these air units are good against everything. So in this case, like if Sqrtofneg1 builds a ground army, he's essentially just fighting 6 wolves and 2 werewolves. The ballista don't really count towards anything, whereas these dragons can keep moving around the map, keep dealing damage to his opponent. They really should be. Ooh, I really hope. Yeah, see, here's the cool thing, or the very interesting thing about this tech transition that Slammer went for. It was kind of slow, right? So because workshops take a while to build, it takes a while before you can produce units out of them, just because of how long they take to build. And as a result, we saw that Sqrtofneg1 was relying pretty heavily on these future mech units that were going to come out in about a minute here. But SlammerIV is going for the all-in before Sqrtofneg1 can officially make that transition. Now we see that there's a little bit of micro. Sqrtofneg1 did lose a lot of workers here at the third. I think he lost all the workers, so he's about to lose all the workers. We do have catapults out now, which is good. That'll help defend from range. But we really need to see more catapults. That's really what we need to see. These guys do a tremendous amount of damage from range. We even see that there's a house block coming into play here so that these towers can do damage. But SlammerIV with this airship is able to start dropping. Looks like Sqrtofneg1 decided not to keep his dragons in the fight over at his main. If he would have kept his dragons in this pocket here, defended by these towers, he would have been able to consolidate these catapults and just completely defended this attack. I don't really know if base trading was the right choice here with these dragons, because they're not going to be able to do that much damage. And he has the ballista. Like, hard to say really. There's nothing here defending the third, whereas if there were at least a couple dragons here, they could have been able to defend this. Slammer defending this quite well. Dragons, I think a couple dragons died so far. I probably want to say about 3 dragons died. Looks like 3 dragons did die, yes. So total of 6 dragons on the field, total of 5 ballista. So plenty of ballista to be able to deal with that. Sqrtofneg1 was able to defend, still at the worker disadvantage, not building workers. He's having to build units to essentially stay alive at this point. I feel like if he built more workers earlier in the game, he would have had the money at this point to afford more units. He would have been, so Sqrtofneg1 is about 1,000 gold. No. 1,000, maybe 2,000. Yeah, 2,000 gold below his opponent, but they've lost a considerable amount, like an equal amount of gold at this point. There's a word there that starts with C, but I'm forgetting what it is. Like a comparable amount of gold, a comparable amount of gold, a similar amount of gold. So just interesting, the choices that are being made. SlammerIV with this defensive airship, able to defend against drops. Sqrtofneg1 getting all the value he possibly can. However, we do see the mass ballista just saying no to dragons. No dragons. That's what he does not want to lose to. SlammerIV can lose to anything, just not dragons. As long as it's not dragons or airships, apparently, with that airship drop. Wolves on the map, getting a lot of scouting information. Sqrtofneg1 starting to build his worker count up now, getting these catapults, and he's gonna start to go for upgrades now. I'd almost prefer he prioritize just building up his workers before getting these upgrades. Again, just considering the worker count and considering how much gold he's down, during this whole game. In fact, he's about to lose a mining base, so it's basically 2 base economy versus 3, with Slammer getting a 4th due to that really good economy lead he was able to get himself earlier in the match. Sqrtofneg1, no worker with this airship to repair it. Slammer beginning to secure his 5th base by sending a worker out to build a tower here. He's even got wolves that'll be able to respond if there's any kind of harassment that comes around, so that's really good to see. SlammerIV with this defensive airship. Dragons roaming the map, trying to get some information here. Do we see only 200 more gold on this mine? Oh, this is uncharacteristic of Sqrtofneg1. I wonder if he took a break, like if he hadn't played in a while. Like, seeing Sqrtofneg1 float this much gold is not normal. He's doing so much, but usually he's like prioritizing macro, like the macro gets taken care of, like macro never falls, and then at the same time he's able to micro, and it's like, you know, the macro is never lacking. But in this case, it looks like Sqrtofneg1 was floating a lot of gold. Even SlammerIV is having an issue with making sure that he's spending his gold. It makes sense, especially when you have catapult drops that are coming in, and you have to move your defensive airships to kind of deal with that. At the same time, Sqrtofneg1 defending against this. SlammerIV did look like he wanted to send his wolves in. Worker builds a house to block the wolves from being able to come in. SlammerIV also has this defensive airship to be able to start targeting down dragons. He's basically using them to just hunt down dragons at this point. Needs to make sure not to lose these ballista to the Gatling guns that are down here, but SlammerIV just losing a ton of dragons at this point. Looks like he was focused on microing that airship. I do like the fact that Sqrtofneg1 has started to amass his mech composition. If we look at his army comp, 6 catapults, 7 Gatling guns, airship. He's starting to trade out his dragons for some other supply, whereas SlammerIV, let's take a look at SlammerIV's army. It's almost entirely airships. Or ballista rather. I wonder if SlammerIV were to attack right this moment, who would win? Definitely SlammerIV's army. Definitely Sqrtofneg1's army, not SlammerIV's. Slammer only has 9 wolves and 2 werewolves to defend against ballistas. Sqrtofneg1 should definitely be trying to attack this now. Obviously, I'm not exactly sure he knows what his opponent's army composition is. It does look like he has a good understanding of what the bases are like, as he's able to siege down this 4th base while sending dragons to harass over at this location. Slammer is going to be able to respond to it. Yeah, Sqrtofneg1 making really good usage of these dragons. At the same time, we did see that he was able to get his worker count up. So for the first time this game, we do see that Sqrtofneg1 has the worker advantage. And we also see that Sqrtofneg1 was able to set up a defensive, offensive position with these caltrops, slowing down these units here from being able to attack. However, Slammer with this wolf drop is able to get a nice round against these catapults, not controlling this too well, and as a result the flank is very powerful and gets a ton of damage in. Sqrtofneg1 having to pick up the remaining of his army there, and it looks like Slammer was able to prove me wrong, showing that he was able to produce some additional wolves and use the power of airships to just completely drop and surround that sieging mech army. And as a result, we do see that SlammerIV is in the commanding position in this game. Let's take a look at the economy again. So now the economy is beginning to equalize. In fact, it is almost entirely equal, if not entirely equal at this point. Both players have mined and lost gold comparable to each other. And now it's just completely even. Obviously, Slammer has the additional bases, so he'll be able to mine just a little bit more. It should be 3 base economy versus 3 base economy. Let's see how much more gold is left here. Only 500. Slammer going for a very devastating worker drop, as that's going to shut down a third of Sqrtofneg's economy right here. Catapults doing a lot of damage to these werewolves. Airship goes down, is not able to do any more damage to Sqrtofneg here. We do see that Sqrtofneg going for another catapult drop. Wonder if he has vision. He does not, so he does not know if he did damage to workers or not, and in this case he did not. Ooh, ballista are in the airship. Sqrtofneg was able to drop his catapults in time to not lose his catapults there. As a result, he will end up losing the entirety of the drop, but Slammer will end up losing a ballista in that case. Dragons were very close to scouting out this little detachment. Instead, they find these ballistas that are moving around. Good defensive position by Sqrtofneg, going for additional catapult drops. So he, instead of this is smart actually. So Sqrtofneg is trying to make a definitive play, clearing the way with these dragons so that these catapult drops can potentially get some things done. I thought he was going to pair the catapults with the dragons. Looks like that is not the case. Instead, what he's going for is a triple pronged harassment where dragons go here. However, the ballista and the towers are enough to respond to that. At the same time, trying to go for an additional catapult drop. And at least one catapult drop does start getting some workers, but because of the fact that there are 2 towers at every base almost, these airships are getting shot down pretty quickly, which means that these catapults are going to be completely stranded, and thus he loses a good amount of his forces right there. Slammer with a defensive airship not having any ballista in them, which is unfortunate, and also Slammer with a little bit more aggression sending these wolves around does end up losing those wolves again. So both players losing forces. Now it looks like Slammer has lost about 1,000 more gold than his opponent. So Sqrtofneg is effectively ahead in terms of the economy for the game. He's mined a little bit more, and he's also lost fewer workers. Let's take a look at production. So Slammer only building workers at the moment, trying to get his economy up. Sqrtofneg getting his 5th base under control while building defensive upgrades, which I really appreciate because Beast typically doesn't have the best time going up against defensive mech. So mech with a lot of armor is very, very difficult to kill. They're very resilient, and we do see that these Gatling guns are in position for a little bit of a run by. Some dragons being picked off, but I would like to see these ballista move. Is he aware of this 5th base location? He is aware, and it looks like he's going to try to siege it down with catapults and Gatling guns. Dragons used to control. Looks like the map is just completely split. Slammer responds by sending his airships and a detachment of wolves to shut down this expansion, while at the same time we do see the exact same situation we had over here on this side of the map. If you remember, the mech siege is in full effect with catapults knocking down the walls of this castle here. Slammer 4 is trying to respond with maintaining this flank position. It seems looks like this is the only flank that we see going on so far, and as a result, Slammer ends up losing a base here. It responds with some aggression at Sqrtofneg's 4th base. Sqrtofneg responds by going on to start sieging down Slammer's 3rd base. So it'll be very interesting. So very base tradey by both of these players. I personally think the mech army is stronger. Slammer at 92 supply, whereas Square Root is also at 90 supply. So both players at a very similar supply count. But yeah, hard to say who exactly is winning this game. I'm very sad to see that these catapults are getting targeted down. This defensive position for this catapult is very good unless it gets dropped on. Second castle goes down for Slammer here. Wants to make sure he shuts down the den production. How many dens do we see from Slammer? That is the question now. So if we look at the buildings tab, we only see 2 dens from Slammer, whereas Square Root has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 buildings that can produce. Slammer does need to get his production up if he's going to want to remax this game. And it doesn't look like he's starting to do any of those things, just building 2 wolves at a time. But as I mentioned, I think Square Root's army is a lot stronger here. Dragons will be able to deal with this airship, and these Gatling guns are very strong against these werewolves. Ends up losing 2 werewolves right there. Wolf's trying to come in to deal some additional damage, and it looks like Slammer 4 decides to call GG after that very intense base trade between Sqrtofneg1 and Slammer 4. Really well played by both these players, going from that early 2 den into this dragon tech, which was so interesting because Slammer hard committed on Ballista, and that ended up shutting Square Root down for a good amount of that game until he was able to make that mech transition. Very, very fun game to watch. If you enjoyed, please remember to leave a like. Please remember to subscribe. Making these videos is a ton of fun for me, and I love doing them when I find the time. Yeah, if you subscribe, and well, if you do subscribe, then I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'm excited to see you then.